Tell my friends stand by me only if I'm right. I come out of triple darkness just to see the light. If I say it once, I guarantee I say it twice. If they want me, I ain't going out without a fight. In my dreams, I'm a killer, but for God, man. Try to play it cool, but it's getting hard, man. Rolling with the real and death to all the frauds, man. Not too many of me, yeah, it's kinda hard, man. In my room, sitting in my room. Know they waiting on me and I'm coming soon. Never been a sellout, never been a coon. Y'all be on the camera acting.
Poppy.
Yeah. Yeah, you better believe I got a sweet tooth, but ain't nothing sweet. I know you spend all your money to treat. I'm about to spend this little money on treats. Was on a diet, but I gotta cheat. Jumped off the porch, now I'm on 2nd Street. Tamika, my twin, she rolling that dough, and I think about counting that dough in my sleep. What's up, TJ? Before y'all run, I don't wanna be late. I need a little something, I hit this way, and I need it now, I don't need a delay. Peanut butter like my snack, like my woman. Denzel Washington, I'm leaving with sun. Chocolate chip, baby, you know how I'm coming. Banana pudding, no, we got it jumping, yeah. Yeah, got butterific, I'm feeling terrific. Serving them cookies is not just a gimmick. They pulling them now, cause they love to mimic, yeah. I need a pack, I need a sack, I need a stack, I need a rack. Man, I need everything in a bag down.
You better believe it.
Ay, butterific, yeah, butterific, butterific.
What's going on, family? This is Che Wills from Wealth is a Journey. I'm here to invite you to the Wealth Builders community. We meet once a month on Zoom. We talk about financial wins, areas of opportunity, and strategies to get you to the M's. If you've been doing your finances alone, I know it sucks. You don't know which direction to go. You don't know what to do, but I am here to guide you. My wife and I, we have gotten out of debt. We are debt-free, house, cars, credit cards, everything. And I am here to guide you on how you can do the same so then you can start building long-term wealth for you and your children's children. So if you've been doing finances alone and you are tired of it, I'm inviting you to join Wealth Builders community today. Let's go.
Welcome to the B2M Crew podcast with 5 brothers who have been lifelong friends and raised 13 total children, 12 boys and 1 girl. Coming to talk to you some our journeys in raising our young people, not telling you how to do it, just sharing with you how we did it and held one another tight as a village. Tonight, we want to talk a little bit about recent episodes going on out in the community related to one of our young people being killed. And Joaquin, remind me of the brother's name?
Nolan Wells.
Nolan Wells. I know many people
in
have heard
Mississippi,
about
yeah.
The situation in Mississippi, and basically what we want to talk a bit about today is there's a lot going on in social media about Black parents saying be careful the environments that you send your children in, more directly saying, hey, you don't want to send your child into a circle of people and they're the only Black person or the only minority, because what has been raised as the issue is, of course, no one has been charged in his murder. It seems pretty suspicious. And it just raises our angst a little bit because there have been several cases where we find that our people have been in some situations and end up dead and no one's held accountable for it or seems to know what happened. What do you all generally think, man, about this situation, and also, or just in general, about how do we prepare our children to survive in environments where they're different or they might be the only one in terms of their race?
Man, really just from the gate is scary. You know, you would think you wouldn't have to worry about your children at a certain age. And, you know, though this young man was what? He was 18, 19 years
18.
old.
18.
Hell, my youngest, I had to kind of remind recently that, hey, look, man, as far as who you're surrounding yourself with, I think he did start a job, about 6 or so months ago, and I was like, hey, just if you're the only one, I need you to be close to my vest in communication and let me know that you're safe. You know, so like I said, it's just kind of scary from as far as my knee jerk reaction or seeing those. Again, this is not new, but more recent. It's very disturbing.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I definitely think this right here hit close to home just because we all fathers. And man, that's one of those gut wrenching things that we as parents we fear that that they don't come home,
Mm,
and it's one of those things, man. My son, he have a lot of friends, right? But growing up, man, our parents wanted to know who you hanging with, what's their
right,
name,
right.
what's that first name, what's that last name, who their parents. Now I know I live in a big city, but at the same time, I can't tell you 5 of my son friends' first and last name. And
Mm.
Mm.
that hurt as a parent, But it's like, man, who you going with? Who? Oh, my friend, and it's frustrating at times. It's frustrating, I feel as a parent, I feel like I really dropped the ball in that area. Um,
You
and,
mean as far as like keeping it up even until young adulthood and such, right? Yeah.
period. Yeah, I mean, like, when when he used to play with the young guy across the street, yeah, I knew his grandma, the dad. I knew them, and then another young man across the street. But now you got these school friends, and Dad, you don't know. Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking. And it's so extremely frustrating that, man, who you going with? Who you going out of town with? And one time when he went out of town, I was like, look, telling you now, I need that IG or that social media, because I need to be
Right.
able to know, if something happened to you, we need a reference point. You know what I'm saying? You don't have no reference point. I mean, the law enforcement will look at you like you crazy if you don't know, like, you don't know your kid's friend, like almost as if you're a part of what then took place. So it's just frustrating as a parent. Yeah.
But it's helpful though. Like it's a wake up call and helps remind us that they're not too old to do like you said to do that. Not that I can't think of just my youngest or all my boys and my girl too. Sure. Yeah.
I think when we're young, man, we gotta again be involved. We always talk about the community. Last episode we talked about sports, right?
Hmm.
And again, coaching ball and stuff like that, and you get to know a lot of the neighborhood kids. And you can't choose your children's friends, obviously, right? However, first and foremost, you want your children to know who they are and have them be confident about who they are, right? And then
Hmm.
as they get older, know the difference between acquaintances and real friends, right? Because as a true brother, we're not gonna leave each other behind. We might clown each other, joke each other. We might get into a scuffle or whatnot, but we're not gonna leave you behind. Let's go. We got you. You know.
Right. Right.
But it starts with confidence. It starts with again mirroring how you move in the community too, right? And they see your friendships versus your acquaintances, and you don't trust everybody. Everybody smile in your face is not sincere with that. Obviously, there's a lot of details regarding this case, but our children, especially going uh, to some of these PWIs and hanging out in certain social circles. And my son sent me a video of him jumping off into
A quarry.
a rock quarry,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
I was
Hmm.
like, man, that John looked just like the movie. What was the Adam Sandler movie, James? Grown Ups, right? And I
Right.
was like, man, I hope you want the first one to jump. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, they just have to be confident. And
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, dude.
he said,
Do it.
nah, I was. I said, you check that off the bucket list, right? But yeah, man, just being confident in yourself for who you are, knowing who you are, regardless of the circumstances, and knowing your boundaries. Because women talk about boundaries all the time, but men, we have to establish boundaries too, right?
Facts.
Hey, John,
Facts.
I had a very
I think
similar.
another thing.
Oh, go ahead. Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead, Wa.
Yeah. Yeah. We got you.
Yeah, I
I had a
can.
similar. I had a very similar rock porridge story with Kari, man. And there was a situation where he was like, Dad, I said, where you going? He was like, I'm going out with my buddies. We going to the quarry. I said, what quarry? He's like, the quarry down, wherever the hell is that? I said, oh, no. I said, no. I said, no, you can't do that. I said, once again, I said, son, I ain't going to tell you can't go, but I'm going to tell you probably shouldn't go. I said, you know how many people done jumped in that quarry and ain't come back up? I said, please don't do that. I said, you know, I don't ask you to not do a lot of things. This is one of those times I'm asking you not to go and not to participate. And he didn't go. But to reverse it, I always, when I see these situations, man, I always say, how did we get here? How did we find ourselves in this situation? Why do we see that one black gentleman, Mr. Wells, sitting on the back of a boat with 3 white buddies, and he the only one? How did we get here? And see, we've all have sent, I think, our kids to all white, predominantly white private schools. Okay. And
Not me.
this, well, you in Atlanta, but this is what starts to develop. This is what develops their social circle. And so you got to put them in different atmospheres and different environments, or else this will be their environment. Now, I can tell you, my son Darius, we've talked about this before. And I think one of the biggest things when we send them into these environments is teach them how to speak up and teach them how to advocate and teach them how to read the room. You know, they really got to learn how to read the room. You know, I can recall a time when my son, he out with his buddy, right? And he like, I know I'm not going to have no issues with Jacob. I know Jacob got my back. But when I get with Jacob and he got older brothers, and now his older brothers may be hanging with some dudes that might be, you know, that I might look at a sideways or something like that, I know, you know what? I need to get up out of here. I'll come back later. I'll hang when, you know what I mean? Because you might be with your buddy, but then there's some other people that come around, and now they start looking at you a certain type of way because they feel a certain type of way.
Good point.
You can also be with a group of guys, and he shared this with me. I'm with a group of guys, and we go into the party, and now 2 or 3 girls come running over to me, hugging me, all excited, and want to hang with me the rest of the night. Well, guess what? Them dudes that she just left, they feeling some type of way about me right now. And you got to know that and understand that. And understand the fact that, you know what? I really need to be mindful in this situation of what just happened. You know, how do we find ourselves in these moments where something is happening? You know, I can remember him sharing a time with me when he was at a party, about 50 or 60 people there, and he heard one of the dudes say the N-word. And he like, it's about 50 of them, and it's him. And he like, wait a minute, did I hear that? And the first time, he was like, oh, maybe I didn't hear him right.
Right.
He was like, but a few minutes later, he heard it again. And so he stepped to the dude and was like, hey, man, yo, don't say that again. Now he's speaking up, he advocating, but he know he outnumbered. He like, look, man, don't say that again. And the dude was kind of giving a little pushback or whatever. But then one of the white girls there was like, hey, you heard him. Don't say that again. We don't want to hear that crap. You know what I mean? So now this dude knows that this is not an environment where he's going to be free to just say the N-word and do whatever he want, because it ain't just the one black guy. And I told Darius when we was talking about it, I said that guy probably was saying it, hoping you heard it, so you would be offended and leave because he didn't want you there. You know what I mean? But then one of the other young ladies spoke up, and Darius was like, yo, she spoke up for me in that moment. He said, I will forever know what she's all about because she stood up for me. I remember one time, I got to tell this story. I was in a situation, we was at the Hampton Inn. It was a big fight. I don't know what happened. You know, you laughing, you know, John, you was there. It was a big fight, man. And I got separated from y'all. I don't even know if y'all know this part of the story. I got separated from y'all because I had lost my shoe trying to get up out of there. And then I went back to get my shoe. I need my shoe. Yo, man, them white dudes surrounded me and they was like, yo, he was with him. He was with him. And I'm like, yo, man, I was with him, but I ain't had nothing to do with the fight. I'm just showing up late. I don't know what happened. And he was with him. And they started coming around me, man. And I will never, ever forget this as long as I live. My man, Scott Rittenhouse stood up and was like, hey, man, y'all not going to do that to him. He's a good dude. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Man, Scott Rittenhouse came to my defense, and I will never, ever forget that, man. And he probably don't even remember that.
Ward and all, and John and all them. He didn't do
Y'all, everybody was gone. It was just me. It was just me. Man, and I said, man, I'll never forget, man. I said, man, Scott Rittenhouse, a real one, man. Because he stood up for me. He stood up for me. I was up against it. It was probably about 15 of them at that point. And it was just me looking for my shoe.
They had took an L and they had took an L.
Oh, I see. I didn't even know all that.
Yeah.
Well, they was about to get a W on me. They was about to get a W on me if it wasn't with Scott.
Hey, the return would have been a mess.
Yeah. Hit us with.
Oh yeah, man. I was sitting up here thinking, like, growing up, man, mom always stressed to us, and this go back to the young man, Mr. Wells situation, man. Mom always stressed to us, whoever you leave with, you come back with, you know. And in this situation, you know, as I was reading some of the stories and stuff, they said a young man, he stayed behind. And then at first they didn't really say who he stayed behind. What's that?
Yeah, that's their story.
He said that's their story.
Right. But then I was reading it say he stayed behind and he was having communications with a young lady. And that's kind of where the story kind of died off at. But at the same time, that of course, well, I mean, we'll know later on when the autopsy come back and the more they do investigate the whole situation. But I think it's very important when you leave with whoever you leaving with and you come back with the same people. I think that's just very, very important for so many different reasons, because a lot of times if you're in various situations and you know, out or about, and maybe you was socializing, talking to some young ladies, and then your buddies leave you, and now, you know, now might be some beef there, and now you ain't got nobody to support you because you by yourself because your buddies have left you. So those situations happen a lot, you know. But at the same time, I think it's definitely very important to you know, come and go, you know, leave with the people you came with.
What's going on, family? This is Che Wills from Wealth is a Journey. I'm here to invite you to the Wealth Builders community. We meet once a month on Zoom. We talk about financial wins, areas of opportunity, and strategies to get you to the M's. If you've been doing your finances alone, I know it sucks. You don't know which direction to go. You don't know what to do, but I am here to guide you. My wife and I, we have gotten out of debt. We are debt-free, house, cars, credit cards, everything. And I am here to guide you on how you can do the same, so then you can start building long-term wealth for you and your children's children. So if you've been doing finances alone and you are tired of it, I'm inviting you to join Wealth Builders community today. Let's go.
Poppy.
Yeah, you better believe I got a sweet tooth, but ain't nothing sweet. I know you spend all your money to treat. I'm about to spend this little money on trees. Was on a diet, but I gotta cheat. Jumped off the porch, now I'm on second street. To make up my twin, she rolling that dough, and I think about counting that dough in my sleep. What's up, TJ? Before y'all run, I don't wanna be late. I need a little something, I hit to see way, and I need it now, I don't need a delay. Peanut butter like my snack, like my woman. Denzel Washington, I'm leaving with sun. Chocolate chip, baby, you know how I'm coming. Banana pudding, no, we got it jumping, yeah. Yeah, I got butterific, I'm feeling terrific. Serving them cookies is not just a gimmick. They pulling them now cause they love to mimic. Yeah. I need a pack, I need a sack, I need a stack, I need a rack. Man, I need everything in a bag down.
You better believe it.
Ay, butterific. Yeah, butterific. Shit, butterific.
Man, that's facts. I gotta do something that's gonna take a small digression, but I can make a connection to it to what we talking about. One is we did an episode on mentors, and what triggered me was somebody. I think somebody earlier on this podcast said you got to know how to move. You understand what I'm saying when you're in these environments.
Right, yeah.
You know, we did an episode on mentors, and we were talking back about who did we have to mentor us, man. And since we did that episode, it's been paining me. I've been waiting to get back on here to talk about Miss Sandra Jackson and Albemarle High School.
Shout out to
Yes,
Miss
sir.
Jackson. Yeah.
Yes.
So I have to credit, and I don't know if she watches the podcast, but I do know she checks out some of our clips. And I'm doing this expressly because I want her to hear this and know this, man. Because all of us know her and all of us were touched by her in some way. But I remember when we were dealing with those racist white students at that assembly, I think I was in about the 10th grade. And this kid got up and said something really racist. And back then, all we wanted to do was fight him when that happened, right? So we got up in the middle of the assembly, walked over to the boy, talking him down. And she got up, wait a minute, right? And I don't know what it was, man, but I wanted to do something about it, right? And so I got my anger out and wrote this, just wrote about what happened, right? And somebody, I think it was Tosh, took it to Miss Jackson, right? Miss Jackson came and found me and said, "You not gonna be angry. I'm gonna show y'all what to do with this anger." And she took us down into her basement classroom and acknowledged our frustration with being the minority, right? And said, "Y'all gonna sit down here and learn how to write these bylaws and these constitutional principles and these organizing principles, and y'all gonna start a club.
Students,
So that
hopes, and outcries united together.
so that you don't need them when it's club time and y'all walking around and can't find a place to call your own." So through that, we started Shout, right?
Yeah.
And that was a club that became the largest club in that school because this sister taught us how to organize, right? And beyond that, her continued mentoring was I learned from her how to channel my anger into something constructive, and that we could do something. And John
Not
got a
just
story
fight.
about not just fighting. John had a story about how she helped them to get African American history class or studies class in the building. I just want to acknowledge that through her, I learned how to move in a room full of vultures. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is segueing back to what we're talking about. So shout out to Miss Jackson. Love you
Miss
forever.
Jackson. Miss Sandra Jackson.
I want her to know I've taken that energy into my own education career and to empower young people based on the example of what was done for me. So shout out to that sister.
Hey, what Miss Reynolds part of that?
Miss who?
Miss Reynolds.
Miss Reynolds
came after Miss Jackson. Yeah, absolutely. Did the same thing though. Gwen Reynolds. Same energy.
Okay.
You know, the segue is this. Back to learning how to move in a room full of vultures, right? Look, y'all read the autobiography of Malcolm X or heard about it? He got a chapter called The Mascot, right? He talked about his relationship to the white students that he went to school with and how they were his friends. But he came to learn to say they weren't really friends. They saw him as a mascot, right? You know, you ain't no friend. You a toy, really. Like, I like being around you. You're fun. You're energetic. You got that good black soul for energy. It makes me look cool. You might be offering me protection in the hallways from the other black people. All that stuff. Well, y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
So are you really a friend, or do they just got you around as a mascot? And do you
That's
know
the question. That's the question.
And then the other example I'm gonna give you, remember Richard Pryor movie, The Toy?
Yeah.
Yep.
Same mascot syndrome, right? You just a toy. Don't nobody care about you. You a toy. And so my point is, when Talik, when your mom was like, leave who you go home with, I'm gonna quote somebody that's inconsistent, but he was right on this one. Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar said this. He said, every white person is racist, but every white person is not a bigot. Right?
Mm.
Said if a bigot is somebody that's intently trying to do something every day about their racism to harm you. Right?
Okay.
He said a racist is somebody that benefits from white privilege but don't want to give it up. And he said every white person, not many of them want to give up that privilege no matter how much they say they love you. Right?
Right.
So when you got a situation where you got a young black person that goes out with this all white group of friends, right? And an accident happens. Let's call it an accident, right? But they might be responsible because they had some collusion in it. They was drinking, somebody accidentally pushed them, and they don't want to do it. You best believe their white privilege is going to trump whatever friendship you think they got. They're not giving that up to seek justice for you or for yours. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says justice is far off and equity cannot enter because truth has fallen in the streets. And what happens in these situations is the truth always gets compromised by their brotherhood, right?
Wow.
They're going to rally around one another and nobody going to find out. We could talk about that case. We could talk about the case of the sister that went on vacation, the older sister, I don't remember her name, with her white friends, and she ended up dead. We could name many cases where we know some justice should have been had, but the system and their collusion against that individual turned out that they weren't friends. So I'm not saying there are no friendships that can exist among races, but if you don't teach your children how to move very carefully in those environments and think 10 times before they place themselves in a position where there is no witness, then you're leaving your child going out into the world a naive individual.
Well said. Good gosh.
And especially in this day and time when we're experiencing a revisitation of Jim Crow.
Right.
And man, you know, and to add to exactly what you're saying is, it's like anything else, bro. Once again, bro, this on white people to fix. They gotta speak up. They gotta speak up. They gotta say something. You know how many of them folks that was on that island with Mr. Wells, you know how many of them know what really happened?
Right.
They know the truth.
Right.
There are some among them that know the truth. And so the responsibility is on them. I tell
they need
a
Scott Rittenhouse. They need a Rittenhouse, don't they? Why?
They need a Scott Rittenhouse, man, to step
up. They know they gonna win in court.
Yeah.
And somebody get to them real quick and say, "Shut up."
One of our parents is a judge.
Man, one of them is a judge. That is true. And you know what, man? You know, when you go back to being the mascot, and you talk about the Richard Pryor movie, I think it was 1980 something, the toy. Bro, there's a history of that go all the way back to slavery. When the slave is being born and they give him a little black slave. Where we right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, Thomas Jefferson up on the mountain Monticello. His little black slave that was given to him was a man named by the name of Jupiter. And that's who was his toy, his mascot. But the relationship they built was so interesting that when they was writing the Constitution and Thomas Jefferson was with his sick wife, he stayed at Monticello and sent all the writings with Jupiter to Williamsburg. He trusts Jupiter with that. The history of that go back so far, and we got to understand how important it is to listen. I tell my boys all the time, listen to your gut. Your gut is nature's alarm system that's built into you. Don't ever ignore it. Don't ever ignore it. So when you talk about how to move in that space, you got to know that you got a natural alarm system built into you that when something ain't right, it'll tell you. And you know you need to act on that and never ignore it. Never ignore it. So
That's
the
a fact.
responsibility is on them folks, but we got to listen to our guts as we move in these spaces and understand that it could go south any minute. And a lot of times when it goes south, it ain't got nothing to do with you. The story there is telling about the girls come running to him and all that stuff, and the dude's getting jealous. What can you do about that? But he was wise enough to pick up on that and know, you know what? I ain't even moving like that. You know what I mean? And knew how to navigate the situation the rest of the night. But all of these things can go south at any moment, and you got to be in tune to what's going on.
Yeah, and a lot of things we got to remember too, man. And when something that's tragic is alcohol or drugs involved. A lot of times. So
Right.
you not only you the minority, now you the minority dealing with somebody that's intoxicated and whatever. I don't care who you are that's intoxicated. The devil coming out of good people that's drunk, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so people that have prejudices or bigotry or deep-seated unexpressed hatred for you, that's coming out when they start drinking and all
Wrong
of y'all
agenda.
around. They get like they get the liquid courage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so, and that's my thing too, is like, first of all, my survival skill is this: if you love yourself and you love your black self and you know who you are, then your children will be less likely to put themselves in an environment where there is, let me just say this. Y'all know we know how to move. If our kids go hang around 5 or 6 brothers, we pretty much know how this gonna go. You know what I'm saying? We know what we're gonna do. We all know that jumping in the quarry world and hey man, let's go get on the boat and play this game backwards. That's their cultural experience that they're inviting us to that they got comfort with. You know what I'm saying? And then we end up being crash dummies for their humor. You know, in a lot of those situations.
Right.
That's very important, you know, for us to know.
And one of the things I know we all do, we always got an exit strategy, right? And from if we go into a restaurant, to a bar, to a club, to a stadium, to a game, right? We know how to move. We know how to get out of this place if something go down. You know what I mean? Especially if we with our lady or we have our children. And the same thing in this particular. Hey, you on a boat, right? So who boat is this, right? I can't drive it. So now I got to know who driving the boat and whatever the case may be, right? Have an exit plan and control how you move as best you can, right? So again, we don't know the relationships you had with those guys. We do
ain't been a good history, no way. Anyway.
Right. And we do know he was a college athlete, right? He played ball. A year was expected to come back and play ball again. I don't know if any of those other guys played ball with him. But yeah, we got to have an exit strategy wherever we go, right? And
hey man, go ahead.
Hey JJ, I would definitely ask you about the exit strategy. Have we, you know, I know our generation, you know, we know how to move because we done had the various talks, but have we conveyed this message to our children? You know,
yeah. I think I have.
Sometimes we think they know.
Yeah, because sometimes they are paranoid. Ain't nobody thinking like that. Ain't nobody, you know, like, nah, I'm not paranoid. Y'all just grew up better. That's it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to teach you to be paranoid. I'm trying to make you aware. You know, I'm not trying to instill fear in you. I'm trying to instill some awareness so you know how to move and you know how to protect yourself. And by the way, if somebody showed you a picture of that quarry, they would have thought you was in Jamaica. The water was blue. I only know it was some sort of minerals in the water that make it blue and clear like that. That don't excuse that. But yeah, man, they got to know how to move and have an escape route wherever we are.
But John, the point
I've definitely shared that with my
they've been there before he hadn't.
Yeah, and they left him on the island, and so the boat was having problems with some of the things I read.
Yeah.
Oh, why are you leaving me on the island? You know what I'm saying? It's an old family story that's kind of it's funny. We're not talking about a funny situation here, but my great uncle used to fight birds, right? And he brought his son with him, and he used to go all the way rural Virginia. His wife on Doris was from West Virginia. They was in there making some money, you know, winning some fights, and the police busted the fight, right? Everybody scattered and ran. Police said, hey, where y'all two boys going? some of them guys gonna get away, but y'all two ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And so
Wow.
they got hemmed up, right? They might have 100 people, 98 people might have got away, but them two didn't. And so we got to be aware of that too, because we're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, right?
Right.
And so you got to
Right.
know that going in, no matter how cool or how good you think these folks are, you are never getting the benefit of the doubt. And now I'm not the one staying behind unless that boat is sinking. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's just one of the things you just got to be aware, and we got to plan ahead and think ahead.
Right. Having that escape route.
Hey
Important
Chubbs,
for sure.
please speak on that. You said we become crash dummies for their humor.
Yeah.
Man, bro, that is real. That's real stuff. Let me tell you what happened one time, and I want you to follow up on that.
Gotcha.
One time, Darius went out with Card. All right, my oldest son going out with my youngest son. And y'all know my youngest son, he be in the room for 2 hours. You might not hear him say one word. But Darius came back. He was like, dang. He was like, I ain't going out with Card no more. I ain't going out with him no more. I was like, what's that? What's wrong? They're like, man, Card get with them white boys. And he like stone cold. They got too much frat boy in there. I'm like, Card? He like, yeah. He was like, I ain't going with them no more. And so I remember another time when Card was telling me about same thing. They was one of his buddies lived, and it's a lake or a pond on their property in the backyard. And I was like, man, that pond looked terrible. And Card was like, yeah, it's nasty. It was all kind of green stuff and all that. I was like, how you know? He's like, man, I jumped off the boat in the pond. I said, what? What are you doing? I'm like, do you know what's in the pond? He like, nah, I ain't know. He like, I ain't jumping in no more. But when that's what we talking about. When you talk about you become their mascot or they crash out for their humor. Because they just laughing and yucking it up while you literally could be risking your life.
In danger.
Endangering your life. And because you innocent and you're not always aware, you know, you do it and you don't know. And so to Chill's point, we gotta remember to talk to them about this stuff. And that's why we doing this show. So all of the parents that watch this can be reminded to go have a conversation with their young people about this particular thing if they haven't.
The oppressed imitates the colonizer, right? And then the colonizer rewards you for your imitation, right? They show you more love because you bringing harm and danger to yourself and showing some bravery. So when all of that's over and they finish laughing, hey, Corey, man, you're awesome, man. You're awesome, dude. You know, man, we're gonna take you to Hawaii with us, man. You see what I'm saying? They reward that in their circle because you be being their entertainment. And I'm not saying that's what Corey's mentality was, but too often we fall victim of that, and we're susceptible to that because we think we're getting some acceptance in these spaces where we're minority, where we're not shining because of our intelligence, we're not shining because of our academics, we're shining because they think we're cool for them. And that's the danger that we have with all of our children. And we could chop this up forever on this subject, but the bottom line is teach your children how to move in a room full of vultures. If they're the minority, you better make sure they're so in love with themselves that they don't make bad decisions. Joaquin, you got something to take us out with, brother?
Yes, I do, man. In the words of the great Frederick Douglass, it is easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men. Peace.